onto the phone lines again and speak with Adam Sanano, anti-graft, personality who also is an anti-corruption campaigner. Adam Sanano, good afternoon to you. You're welcome to Good Afternoon Ghana.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, so we've just gone off the phone lines with Martin Pebu. And the first take at the issue was the fact that he finds it quite embarrassing on the going at each other of minority coming against government or the actions that's taken. And he thinks that the president should activate constitutional provisions by setting up, that is his advice, set up a commission of inquiry that will position itself as a neutral body, so that we will not have so much of these issues or actions being taken to fight corruption thrown at the government because of partisan positions. I'm not sure what you make of this advice.
Well, I mean, I am quite sure that whichever action government takes at this point, you will find that the opposition will have something to say. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because I can well them say that this commission is set up purely for witch hunting, So I know my brother Martin means well by saying perhaps take it out of the quarters. But at the same time, institutions of state must work. And if institutions of state under the current legal framework already have responsibility for these matters, which appears to be the case, otherwise you could not have the process where they would request for warrants, receive it, execute, go and search, etc., etc. It means that the current system allows them to do what they are doing. And so it is not untoward or out of place for the Attorney General, given whatever information is at his disposal, to want to follow up on these issues. So yes, that may be one way, but I doubt that it would in any way reduce the commentary and the position being taken by the opposition that they are just trying to hand them down, etc. I have a suspicion it will make much of a difference.
Well, back to the Attorney General. So you did you listen in with the presser and the briefing that he gave us?
Yes, I joined in midway. Someone alerted me, so I had some parts of it. So tomorrow.
Hello.
So I listened to some parts.
Yes. For the parts, I'm not sure where you listened to, but briefly, what do you make of what he gave us? He has given us a briefing in total about Kwabena Duboahing, who was arrested days back, and reasons why he's been held. He was released, rearrested, and all, so that they can keep within the laws and all that. He has threatened that any person on the suspect list that behaves like Kwabena Duboahing will be treated the same way.
I think that the AG has begun something which for us in civil society is a very important thing. In developing the law for the OSP, Act 959, one of the major gaps that we found was the fact that even though we had institutions of state responsible for investigating, pursuing issues of graft, and giving results, there was no communication on the work being done, what levels they had achieved, what results they had. And so we intentionally in Act 959 established a responsibility to report back to the people at least every 6 months. What it meant was that if the frequency was much more, that will ensure that media and citizens are informed. It will raise the bar in terms of anti-corruption, because everybody realized that, look, this fight is serious. People are being hauled before the courts. People are being investigated. That kind of continuous flow of information is what makes people believe that we are serious. And so for me, I'm very delighted that the Attorney General would choose to brief us directly and take questions and answer all the questions and explain why they went after A or B, the processes followed, the fact that it was legitimate, they hadn't flouted or beaten in laws, and then query the opposition leader and say, listen, if you're going to start slandering us, you better get your facts right, because that's not the way to go. I found it a very important addition to our way of doing things. And I hope that the AGs will continue to do this. The frequency, the much more frequently they engage with the public and media, giving us information, allows all of us to be parties carried along and contributing to support. If we hear anything, see anything, we can also report and ensure that the agencies are taking the actions that preserve the public purse.
Yeah, but the opposition, has criticized it. In its criticism, it states, which we should consider, that this is to prejudice minds.
I mean, the question is, when you can always have a set of people saying one thing. Fact is, has anyone been prejudiced? What's the prejudice? If did the AG come and say anything that was not factual? That's the question. Did he raise anything that was not factual? Did he say anything that substantively anyone would say this was an attempt to attack a particular person, so to speak? I don't think that's the issue. If anything at all, it is because the opposition has gone to town saying that Raid A and Raid B and Raid C and highlighting the issues. Otherwise, these are things that have been done quietly by the security agencies. And I think the AG made that point, that in 2017, so that's where I joined. In 2017, he was in his home when they came and said he was wanted. They showed him a warrant, and so they went ahead and did their search because he had given a legal opinion. And it never hit the light of day. It was not on social media. And that's what is supposed to happen. This current set of searches would not have hit any platforms if people in the opposition had not started saying it's a raid, it's a raid, it's a raid. So let's allow the institutions of state to work. I don't see what aspect of, at least what I heard, is prejudicial at all. It just simply means that they are gathering information, they are picking people, and on the weight of the evidence, they'll go to court. If really the evidence is strong enough, the court will rule on what should happen.
I appreciate the fact that you say that it definitely will have, the effects on the corruption monitoring agencies. But you, the civil society, you have stated that fighting corruption is more effective when you see the government fighting its own people. The reason Ghanaians were against the previous administration was the fact that it gave some very little or zero commitment to fighting corruption allegations against its appointees, which is why this administration decided to take it over and name it what it calls oral. Is it something that one may have the opportunity or the suspicion or the right to think that, well, you seem to be putting so much pressure on this because it has to do with previous administration officials?
I think that argument is a lame argument. It is lame because truth is this is going to be the pattern for regime from regime. I mean, we should just accept it that when one regime goes, the next regime, that's all part of accountability. Mm-hmm. The next regime that comes is going to probe everything you did. They will start with you first. And hopefully when we get to the point where we have leaders who are conscious about their own members, they will also be probing their own members. Mm-hmm. This regime is barely, 3 months? So perhaps nothing has come up yet on their own persons. But if they are serious, we would expect that as you go along, any such issues that come up, you will find that the president would distance himself for it and allow the same institutions of state, which is why, in my view, it is good to allow the institutions of state, because OSP will still do its work. EOCO will still do its work. If they identify that there's any persons who have unexplained wealth and there's a reason to question it, ask, investigate, they will do same. So I think that it is early days to seem to suggest that this particular government is just pursuing the previous government. That is what is going to happen.
Yes, because the previous government officials have already started describing this as witch hunting.
Well, I mean, yes, they can choose to call it witch hunting, but that for those of us from a technical understanding, that is what is going. That's the pattern, and there is no point calling it witch hunting. It is not about witch hunting. It's about what do the facts say. Are the facts credible enough for a court of competent jurisdiction to find you guilty? So you can only tell me it is witch hunting if after they take the issues to court, the court doesn't find a competent argument a compelling argument being made, then we can begin to say, was it really worth it? But until that has happened, I think this is just a lot of talk. It's a way of trying to dissuade and to try and reduce the effectiveness or the fervor with which the anti-corruption agencies will go after you. But that is what is going to happen. Whether this government or the next government, immediately after a transition, we will expect whoever is in government to make sure you do a clean sweep, cross-check what was done. Are there monies we can retrieve? Because we do need those monies. So using the word witch hunting should not stop any of our agencies from going after those who have taken money that are not their monies, have stolen from the public purse. Let's expect that to happen every transition cycle, but it's just talk. It is just talk, because you still have to go through the processes of going to court and proving that this individual has stolen money, or vice versa. So whichever way you look at it, the witch hunting is not going to change the fact that process must be followed, and if process is followed and the court finds that truly there's money that is owed to the state, you must pay back, or you must be sanctioned, you must be jailed. That will happen. So the witch hunting is neither here nor there. Let the legal processes, the anti-corruption agencies do their work, and let's expect that every time there's a transition, this talk of witch hunting will happen. What is much more important is that the government of the day should also take the same measures when they identify that their own people have been involved in graft.
There was a question on, going to court with pertaining to what you have said. There was a question of going to court if you have the evidence. The Attorney General explained that, by the nature of white-collar jobs, white-collar crimes, you definitely will need a lot of information. You have to take your time and go through some rigorous investigation processes to gather more evidence before you probably take it to court. So he indicated that he will not rush to court, but he will make sure that, all the evidence he gathers before he gets to court will be adequate enough to grant him what he goes to the court to seek. And so this is what his position really is when it comes to going to court with evidence. And that's because he was actually being attacked that if you have evidence, why are you coming to the public? Just go to court, because that's like trying to pitch the public, making use of the public, court of public opinion to seek some sentimental support.
And that you see, that kind of argument cuts both ways. The people who are alleging this, and didn't they go to the public to allege it? Wouldn't the whole issue of the searches have been something quiet where nobody is making a fuss about it? So I don't see how the same people who have gone to public to say we are so and so and so wouldn't expect that the AG should come to the public to respond. I mean, what kind of argument is that? I find that a very
especially knowing, not to take the wind out of your mouth, but especially knowing that oral itself was a public support-based information gathered to be sent to the Attorney General. Absolutely.
So it's a bit confusing. If you've come out and say they are doing raids, that is that, and it's not right, it's illegitimate, and so on. The AG is bound. I can't imagine the president being somewhere and hearing all this, or anybody, and not saying, Mr. AG, aren't you going to respond? What is going on there? That means they will instruct him to. And by the way, we in civil society say that is actually best practice. The best practice is that the ministers of state, when there's an issue happening in your sector, you need to be in the public space informing the citizens and carrying them along as to what actions you've taken, why you took them, and what you are expecting to come out of that. He would have been an irresponsible AG if he's going to ignore all the commentary and say nothing. For how long? We will be the first to accuse him and criticize him that what's wrong with you. Come and explain what is going on. So this is neither here nor there. Once all of this is in the public domain, the AG has a responsibility, and I'm trying to explain that that's part of the challenge we've had with our fight. That many of the agencies hardly ever come into the public domain to say what is being done, who has been arrested. So there's no, that high level of precedence that if I do this, I might be arrested. It's not happening because there's nothing in the public domain. It's like nobody's fighting anything. Nobody's been arrested. So it serves our public interest for the AG to come and say, these are the reasons. And if we think what he has said is not good enough, it's not credible enough, we question him and tell you that, no, what you are doing is wrong. And trust me, Ghanaians know how to talk. We'll tell the AG that this one doesn't make sense. So I think that is neither here nor there to say, why should you come to the public? The issue is already in the public domain, being discussed. The AG, if he has to be responsible, needs to come and give us feedback as to why this has occurred and what exactly is going on.
So the AG must continue on this tangent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, all anti-graft, like I've said, the challenge you've had, whether it is BNI, CID, EOCO, charge has been that even though they are doing work, this information is hardly ever in the public domain. And so there's that sense that the impunity of fraud and of graft goes unabated and nobody is stopping it. If you put much more information into the public space, showing that high-ranking officers are being searched, are being arrested, are being jailed, you find that gradually you see a reduction in the levels of impunity and corruption we are finding, because people have that understand that, hey, there are people watching, they are following up, there are actions being taken. And so we really do need all anti-graft agencies to be more proactive in carrying people along, the citizens along, by giving us feedback as often as possible.
Do you see a proper separation of, I don't know if it's right for me to put it that way, separation of powers in terms of the work of the Attorney General? He indicated that he's not under pressure from political authorities or quarters. He's rather under pressure from the public. But do you think that he's really doing his work independently, devoid of presidential influences?
I don't know what you would call presidential influence, because if you are the president and commander-in-chief, you are required to have set targets for your various sector ministers.
Yes.
And so there cannot be a situation where there will be no influence from the presidency. The president is expected to have a vision. That vision is supposed to be tangible in terms of set targets. Those targets must be, as it were, relevant to the sectors. And within the sectors that they are relevant, the ministers in charge will be answerable and accountable to those particular targets. So if the president's target has been that, listen, we need money, and anyone who's stolen money that we know they have stashed somewhere and can be made available for us to improve our cash flow, we want you, if you have any such intelligence, any intel, follow those as low-hanging fruits, retrieve them, and make sure that we have it accessible so we can use for other things. That would be what the AG would do. So you would prioritize the cases available that he needs to think about in relation to anti-corruption, find those that probably low-hanging, less effort, likely to retrieve a lot, and that will help and shore up the accounts, and probably pursue them. So there would be some influence. That's my point. It may not be the overt kind where they are calling you every day and saying, who have you arrested, etc. But in terms of the target set for him, there would be some influence.
Maybe lastly, before you go, do you think that this work should serve, you have said that, well, the government is just about 3 months old in office, but should this serve as a caution and warning to the current members of government?
I think it should. It should very much so, because, you see, we all know that this is a one-time presidency. His Excellency President John Mahama is not going to be able to take another shot at this. Now, in that time, it's clear he would want to achieve as much as he could. Our anti-graft agencies appear to be alive to the fact that we are expecting them to do more than what they have done in the past. We've already had a situation where an MP and these are things that have not happened in the past, so we need to pay attention, has been left, hanging because Parliament as a whole doesn't seem like they are too enthused about, protecting their own and saying that therefore the rule of law cannot follow its course. So I think that anyone who is in this government just should pay attention. And I think it's not just about the government itself. It's also about where we have arrived at as a society. The election processes and the outcome of the election tell you that Ghanaians are tired of a certain type of leadership and governance. Mm-hmm. We want much more progress in all sectors. And to that extent, therefore, any government that is well-meaning, any government that wants to make sure that people will still support it, will ensure that those who seem to be the miscreants, those who want to create trouble, those who want to fill their pockets at the expense of the rest of us, are identified, isolated, and punished where necessary. And I think that every member of this government should not assume that, oh, it's happening to the other group. I think the president said that the stick that was used to beat A will beat B as well.
Right.
They should anticipate that we will treat them with the same measure and demand that our agencies treat them with the same measure as they are treating members of the previous government.
Well, anti-graft agent and also an AU advisory board on corruption member, Adam Senan, we're grateful for speaking to us here on Good Afternoon, Ghana. Thank you. So